Good afternoon, everyone. I hope your day is off to a great start. So today's video, you may think it has an odd title. It's called Help, I Need a Grown-Up, but give me a second to explain. So as we are, in the thick of our program, in the middle of our program, and you are adjusting to your new normal. So keep that in mind. You're adjusting to your new normal because we're not just gonna stop when this is over. You might stop tracking your macros, and that's cool. I'm actually very supportive of that. But you're not gonna stop eating lean proteins at your meals. You're not gonna stop eating a bunch of vegetables. You're not going to start eating a bunch of fried food. You are going to continue to plan your weeks. You're going to continue to plan your meals, right? This is a way of life. So as we are adjusting to this, it's often, it's very easy to sometimes feel kind of like a toddler. Like, why do I have to do this? Nobody else has to do this. Why can't I just have a bunch of cookies? Or to even maybe feel like a rebellious teenager. Maybe you don't feel like a toddler, but a teenager. But like, you know what? I don't even care. I'm just going to do it. I don't care what you say. I'm just going to do it anyway because it's my life and I can do whatever I want. So whether you're feeling like a toddler or a rebellious teenager, take a moment and sit back, and instead of listening to those voices in your brain, turn to the voice of the inner wise caregiver. I've brought up this voice before. I really never know when to insert this talk. But we have these voices in our heads. We can be whiny babies. We can be rebellious teenagers, know-it-alls. But we can also be a voice of reason. And I use the term like wise inner caregiver just because parental relationships can be strange sometimes. So as to not alienate anyone, just think about a wise caregiver that's taking care of you. And you want to listen to that voice. So I want you to think about what is the same old story that you have for yourself? Because we all have these stories that we tell ourselves. It could be something like, in order to lose the weight or reach my goals, I must deprive myself. And if that's what you think you have to do, that's the story you keep telling yourself. The deprivation, it must be strict, and I have to make lots of rules. No this, no that, no this, no that. And the rules, they're all or nothing. Like, it's big time. It's go big or don't go at all. And if I break these rules even just a little bit, then I'm a failure. And I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And then once I get off plan and once I'm already feeling like a failure, then screw it. I'm just going to eat whatever I want because I can't do this. I'm no good at this. I'm not good at following these strict rules. I'm never going to get this weight off. Another story we keep telling ourselves. And then you're like, ugh, I feel awful because I just said screw it and I went crazy this weekend. I've got to start this week with more strict rules. That's exactly what I need. I need more rules that'll make me follow these rules. And that's just not how it goes. It's like this vicious cycle. And I have an infographic that I'm going to post in the comments below. It's a beautiful visual that hits home, and I want you to print it out or save it on your phone. These food rules, I'm sure you know my standpoint on food rules. I'm not a fan of them. I'm not a fan of deprivation. It does not work. It seems like this should work, but they don't. They don't work because we can't follow them. That's one reason. Another reason is we can't bully ourselves into changing. Kind of like my video I posted on my work page. You can't bully someone else into working out and eating right. You can't do that to yourself either. It just doesn't work. So being extra strict and self-blaming for not being able to stick to this ridiculous plan, it doesn't work. And also, so our bodies are evolved to prevent starvation. So the minute we start to lose weight, your body thinks that it's going into starvation. So as you lose weight, your body works to help you not lose weight because that's what it's evolved to do. So losing weight is really, really hard. And that messes with us. And then finally, there's this underlying assumption that I'm deprived. And since I'm deprived, I can rebel and treat myself with these forbidden foods. And that's what gets us in trouble. And if you look at the graphic I posted on my Instagram today or my Facebook, my Kylie Fit page, the bigger the restriction, the bigger the binge. It bites you in the ass. It works against you having too much restriction, because then you feel I've been so good all week, and then it takes you off plan, which makes you on Monday say I need all the rules, and you're failing again. So, as you hear these stories that you're telling yourself, and let me just go back to a couple other familiar stories. The story that I used to tell myself was, it doesn't matter what you eat because you work out so much. Yeah, that was true, but I was working out too much, and just because you work out a lot doesn't mean you can eat whatever you want. Not even from an aesthetic standpoint, just you need fruits and vegetables because you need micronutrients. I talk all about macros, protein, carbs, and fats, but you also need your vitamins and minerals. So just because you work out a lot doesn't mean you can eat whatever you want. And FYI, the older we get, the more that becomes true. And for those of you who have friends who are like naturally thin, and they think they can eat whatever they want, but then that friend who's naturally thin, she's probably like, or he's probably like, but I'd really love some muscle tone. They're not going to get the muscle tone unless they're eating enough, unless they're strength training in order to change their body composition. So this is true, whether you have a ton of weight to lose or whether you're naturally thin, we all have these stories that we tell ourselves. What I want you to do is look at the story that you're telling yourself and ask yourself, how's that working? I know for me, my story was not working. It's like, I don't have the physique I want because I'm working out all the time, but I'm eating whatever I want. It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. So if your story is working for you, great, keep it up. But if your story is working against you or it's holding you back in some way, it's time to switch that story. And that's where this inner wise caregiver or this grown-up comes into play. So just like, a caregiver, like the best babysitter or the best parent in the world, they know when a child needs to take a nap, or they know when that child needs a snack because they've just been, running around all day. Your grown-up brain can recognize calm and comfort that whiny toddler in your head. Like, you know what you need to do and say in order to get yourself to calm down. So, when you see that side come up, whether it's the whiny toddler or the rebellious teenager, when you hear those voices pop up, I want you to flip the script and tune into that wise inner caregiver and ask yourself, okay, how old am I right now? Am I 2? Am I 16? Am I acting like a whiny brat? Am I acting like a rebellious teenager? Do I need to switch the script in my head? And then, what would that wise inner caregiver say right now? So chances are that wise inner caregiver, he or she is going to say something really comforting, something kind, something compassionate, something honest. So when you ask yourself, how's that working? Be honest. Don't lie to yourself. If it's working, great. If not, let's acknowledge that and adjust. And also firm. So just, a wise inner caregiver, a good caregiver doesn't let the kids run around wild, like wild banshees, right? There's rules in place. But what that caregiver does, they help to, calm you down. They give you that snack. They say, okay, now go take a nap. So that's what I want you to do. Start writing a new story based on the voice of the inner caregiver rather than a whiny brat, toddler, or a rebellious teenager. And start this story without strict rules. There's not a bunch of know this, know that. No all or nothing type of business. This story is full of love, it's full of wisdom, and it's full of compassion. And this story gives you, in this story, I want you to sense what your body needs right now rather than relying on rules. So don't worry about rules. Start to listen to your body. What's your body saying? Do I need a rest day? Do I need to drink more water? Do I need to eat more? Do I need to eat less? And the story, let it take you where you want to go. So write your story in that voice of the caregiver. without rules, a supportive story, and let it lead you to where you want to go, following the advice of that wise inner caregiver. So here's what we're going to do today. I'll type this up above for those of you who don't like watching videos. Review your same old stories about food, about eating, about your body. What is your script for how this whole process should work? Do you expect to feel deprived? Do you make strict rules or stringent plans? Do you deprive yourself of certain foods but then rebound later on? Do you engage in all or nothing thinking? Does your dialogue about food make you sound younger than 18? Do you criticize yourself harshly? Here's the big one, you guys. If you wrote down what your inner voice was saying, would you let that inner voice anywhere near your daughter or your son? Right? Think about what you're saying to yourself. Maybe you don't have kids. Would you say that to your best friend? Let me say that one more time. If you wrote down what your inner voice was saying, would you let that inner voice anywhere near your daughter or your son or your best friend? If not, we probably need to get rid of that inner voice. So then you're going to capture your stories. We're going to review them. We're going to see how is that working for us. And when you read them back, you might have some light bulbs go off. You may not realize that your stories are working against you. Because remember, you're wired to win. So those stories that you're telling yourself, you're going to win at those stories. You're manifesting your life with the stories you keep telling yourself. So if you keep telling yourself, I'm never going to get the weight off, that's what's going to happen. So yeah, just start to become really aware of your inner voice. And after you're aware of that inner voice, call on your wise caregiver. What would that wise, gentle, compassionate caregiver say or do here? A super strict mom, like I think of like an evil stepmother, isn't gonna help. She's the over strict one, the one that makes you come home at 11:30 when all your friends get to stay out till midnight. But it's also not, the do what you want mom who doesn't care what you're doing, just leave her alone. Both of those are lousy parents. We can't have too many rules, but we also do need some structure. So find that middle road, and how can you channel that honest, mature, yet compassionate inner grown-up to help you make thoughtful and responsible choices? So this is a big one. This is one of my favorite activities of all time, mostly because it makes you check in with the stories that you keep telling yourself. Feel free to share your inner stories, because I'm sure a lot of us have the same stories that we're saying over and over again. If it's not serving you, switch it. I know that's easier said than done, but it's really going to hold you back in the long run. And even if you don't believe it right away, just start to change the dialogue in your head. So you guys have a wonderful afternoon. Keep up the great work with your macros. Remember, plus or minus 5 for those of you that are tracking. Don't leave a bunch of calories on the table. Carbohydrates build muscles. We think it's protein, but carbohydrates are what makes muscles, okay? Remember that, and I'll talk to you tonight.